Tarjetas de crédito, pagado por Cero Deudas.
Broadcasting from Now Media Network's headquarters in Houston, this is Purple Politics, hosted by political expert and commentator Alina Gonzalez-Dockery. Join us to discuss the most important issues affecting our nation with fresh, balanced, and objective discussion on the first bilingual media network in the United States. Purple Politics starts right now.
Good evening and welcome back to another Purple Politics episode presented by Now Media TV. I am your hostess, Alina Gonzalez-Dockery, and let's just jump right into it. The Fed rate cuts are a matter of if rather than just when. The Federal Reserve encountered a setback as recent inflation report indicated a firmer than expected inflationary trend, challenging the central bank's hope for a smooth economic landing through interest rate adjustments. Despite robust hiring, the likelihood of inflation stabilizing around 3% rather than the Fed's target of 2% raises doubts about the feasibility of rate cuts in the near future without clear signs of economic declaration. So let me get more into specifics. The data suggests that a potential return to a cautious stance among Fed officials waiting for better inflationary metrics or a significant economic downturn have aimed to avoid. The uncertainty regarding whether inflation will follow a bumpy path to 2% or become entrenched about 3% complicates the outlook for rate cuts, with the latter scenario possibly eliminating the case for reductions altogether. Fed Chair Jerome Powell and his colleagues began the year with optimism as inflation cooled faster than anticipated. However, in the past 3 months, the CPI, or the Consumer Pricing Index, has shown that inflation is more like 3.8%. In fact, though we have seen a reduction in the current inflation through 2023, January, February, and March of 2024 have been seeing increases in the Consumer Pricing Index, and this is after stripping out food and gasoline, which are, let's face it, the most evident price increases, the most evident impact to consumers' wallets. So, however, though the recent data raises questions about the conventional wisdom regarding inflation dynamics, leading to concerns about the Fed's ability to deliver anticipated rate cuts, because currently our mortgage interest rates have been nearing 8%, which also hinders people's ability to refinance homes or even buy homes. And the consumer confidence or investors' confidence in this soft economy is also lagging, which is why you're seeing fluctuations in the stock market. The March inflation report, while not individually significant because it rose about 0.04%, added to the perplexity due to its continuity with stronger than expected January and February figures. This persistence of high inflation prompts contemplation about the Fed's capacity to navigate the economy towards its objectives amidst warnings that market expectations for a soft landing may be overly optimistic and precarious. There's a debate within the Fed about the root causes of inflation. I don't know. Go to the grocery store. Check it out. Also, maybe the fact that we're having issues in the Red Sea, which is routing tankers that are bringing goods to our economy. And despite growing job market, adding jobs and raises, the reality is if you were to take the dollars that, yes, workers are receiving a raise, they're getting higher paid, the reality is because of the consumer pricing index and what we are seeing at the grocery store, with rents still skyrocketing, with, gasoline now upwards of $3.70 to $4 on average per gallon. You're basically looking at the consumers or the workers are actually at a loss of 2.74% despite their raises, which this also has a great impact because what does the White House administration like to tout? They created jobs. They have created income increases. Well, yes, but the income increases are still not consistent with the consumer pricing index and inflation of 3.8%. So overall, the Fed is facing the challenges in steering the economy towards its inflation target while maintaining sustainable growth. And you got to remember, we have not seen this type of inflation since the 1970s. And for those that have been around or who have looked at and researched what was occurring in the 1970s and during the Carter administration, we had a huge record-setting inflation. We had interest rates at 12, 14% for mortgages, and there was just a blank out stall. So this is something that the Feds are doing. So rather than the Feds maybe coming out and being overly optimistic, in their next report, which will be in May 1st, perhaps they should take a cooling and say, maybe we won't be reducing the interest rates just yet in order to avoid high inflation and an absolute recession. And this underscores why inflation is Biden's most stubborn political problem. Not the hugest political problem, because the hugest political problem, according to the polls, is the lack of security at our borders with millions upon millions of people flooding our country over the southern borders. But inflation has become a significant domestic policy challenge for President Biden ahead of the upcoming election in November. With rising prices impacting his standing in polls, despite the administration's acknowledgement of the issue, there are no immediate solutions, and major policy shifts aren't planned. Biden's focus remains on proposals to lower housing and prescription drug costs, forgiving student loans, giving money away to Ukraine, as well as other pet projects that, when you have a government that is only receiving $4.3 trillion, lots of zeros on that, $4.3 trillion from taxes and such, and consumer domestic, our government is still overspending when we're looking at budgets of $9 to $11 trillion. This has a serious question, because the real issue is even though Biden likes to tout that he is adding jobs, 330,000 jobs to the workforce, and that you have California raising minimum wage to $20 an hour for fast food restaurant workers, you still have to deal with the fact that rents are skyrocketing. The consumer is paying over 3.8% more than what was being paid in December of 2023. 3 months. So many of Biden's cost-cutting plans will take months to materialize and may not immediately address rising prices, particularly in areas like grocery costs, which are largely beyond the administration's control, and also conveniently not counted in inflation markers that the Biden administration with the Fed have kind of reworked their own calculation to determine whether we are in an inflation or not. Biden's focus remains on proposals to lower housing and prescription drug costs. And despite efforts to communicate the positive aspects of the economy, such as job growth, voters remain concerned about inflation. Well, yes, I am a voter. Yes, I am a middle-class, self-employed individual, and I am still stunned when I go to the grocery store and I see that a dozen eggs will cost me $5. Yes, a gallon of milk is expensive. So these are what, for those of us, when we go to the grocery store, when we're putting gas in our cars, when we're looking at whether or not we're going to be able to buy a home or much less rent a house, Those are the real issues that are affecting the electorate today. And I would say this is why, more importantly, we need common sense to be brought back. We need common sense. If we as a household are trying to do a zero balance or not depending on credit cards, which, by the way, more families are dependent on credit cards and the use of credit cards in order to pay bills because of the rising electricity costs and such, why isn't our government? Why is it that we still do not have an administration or a congressional members that are looking at the reality of the situation for the average American? We are not corporations. We are not lobbyists. We are not super PACs. We are the individual. Democrats urge the administration to prioritize addressing inflation as a public perception of their investment plans in infrastructure and other areas hasn't resonated. The potential for continued high inflation could affect the Federal Reserve's plans, again, to adjust interest rate, with Biden suggesting rate cuts might be necessary, but facing criticism from Republicans regarding his economic policies. There is speculation about the potential political implications of Fed rate cuts, with differing views on who stands to benefit most. Biden hopes to provide relief to homeowners through initiatives like waiving title insurance requirements, which actually protects people, but okay, or refinancing aiming to alleviate some financial burdens amid rising mortgage rates. Despite these efforts, the ongoing challenge of inflation remains a central concern for the Biden administration as the election approaches. And let's discuss something, because he wants to talk about the housing and we have to do something because of title insurance, which title insurance is there to protect for defective title issues. But even if you have for those individuals who have paid off their mortgages, have no mortgage whatsoever, you're still facing higher insurance rates, higher property taxes. Inflation is affecting the utilities. You have electricity. And let's see, Biden is pushing the electric vehicle and mandating that, and to the point that he's going to make sure that every American is doing that. Well, lo and behold, EV cars use up more electricity in a night than an average family does without. So yes, we are navigating turbulent times. Yes, the Fed's complex economic outlook is rather cumbersome, and perhaps they need to be looking at, rather than saying inflation was transitory back in 2021, 2022, when we started seeing this. And now that we are also seeing other countries like Great Britain and Canada announcing that they are in a formal recession, maybe the administration and the Fed need to really look at, along with Congress, you're not off the hook either, both Republicans and Dems, how can we work better for our constituents, the American people? We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get into more woes of the election process. Stay tuned.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Have you ever had to hire multiple contractors? It is a daunting task that takes a lot of management time and impacts the core business or the company, the time you spend with your loved ones. At Texas Home Property Solutions, you can count on a responsible company that can tackle all your general contractor needs. Electricity, painting, remodeling, plumbing, air conditioning, and roofing. Hire us and forget it. With over 20 years of experience, Texas Home Property Solution will deliver your project on time and within budget, with the high level of quality and integrity, no matter the size or complexity. If you are a company, a government institution, or an individual who needs a general contractor, you need Texas Home Property Solution. Take a decisive step and call us today for a free consultation.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
And we're back. Biden and his wife, First Lady Jill Biden, have hosted the Prime Minister and his spouse of Japan for what is building a unified stance. President Biden plans to utilize a historic joint meeting with the leaders of Japan and the Philippines to deliver a direct diplomatic message to China, condemning Beijing's aggressive actions against Philippine vessels in the South China Sea as violations of international law. Recent incidents involving Chinese Coast Guard ships harassing Philippine vessels have prompted condemnation from the United States, labeling such actions as coercive and unlawful tactics in a crucial maritime region. While the Chinese provocations have not yet triggered the military defense pact between the United States and the Philippines, the meeting aims to showcase stronger military and diplomatic unity among the three allies as a clear message to China. Security in the South China Sea is a focal point of discussion between President Biden, Prime Minister Fumio Kishida of Japan, and President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. of the Philippines, with joint naval drills and continued assertions of freedom of navigation planned. This meeting underscores the alignment of interests among the U.S., Japan, and the Philippines, with a shared commitment to a maritime security and the defense of international waters. China's attempts to assert control over the South China Sea have raised concerns, prompting coordinated efforts to uphold freedom of navigation and challenge Beijing's claims. In addition to addressing security concerns, the leaders are expected to announce initiatives aimed at fostering economic cooperation and infrastructure development. Investments in high-impact infrastructure projects in the Philippines, such as ports, rail, clean energy, and semiconductor supply chains, are anticipated. Furthermore, plans to enhance communication technology and deepen military cooperation among the three nations are on the agenda. This joint meeting follows President Biden's discussions with Prime Minister Kishida, where they addressed China's military and economic aggression and announced initiatives for cooperation in various sectors. The upcoming meeting represents a continuation of efforts to bolster regional security, strengthen our economic ties, and reaffirm the commitment of the U.S., Japan, and the Philippines to defending shared interests in the face of Chinese assertiveness in the South China Sea. But not all is well in our unified anti-Chinese Asian partnerships. South Korean leader faces crossroads after a crushing electoral defeat. The recent parliamentary election in South Korea, dubbed Judgment Day by many, delivered a significant blow to President Yoon Suk Yeol, resulting in one of the largest parliamentary majorities for the opposition in decades. This outcome positions President Yoon on the brink of becoming a lame duck, marking the first time in decades that a South Korean president faces an opposition-controlled parliament throughout their entire term. The election outcome exasperates political polarization in South Korea, signaling deepening deadlock and hindering bipartisan cooperation, crucial for addressing key domestic issues and advancing the country's foreign policy objectives. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Holy cow, divisiveness, partisanship, refusing to work together. There seems to be a common theme here that we too are experiencing in the U.S. President Yoon's leadership has been marred by domestic challenges, including inflation. Yep, check that off for us too. Democratic backsliding concerns, allegations of corruption involving his wife. Yeah, we have all of that. Despite his conservative foreign policy accomplishments, which gained recognition internationally. The election primarily centered on domestic grievances, leading the opposition framing it as a referendum on President Yoon's leadership. Domestic grievances. Again, we could be looking in the mirror right now, U.S. Critics have accused President Yoon of being disconnected from the concerns of everyday citizens. Weren't we just talking about that? That this administration and members of Congress seem to be focusing on the wrong thing, not what is affecting we the people, we the United States. While President Yoon has achieved some success in foreign policy, particularly in strengthening the military ties with the United States and Japan, his weakened domestic standing could impede his diplomatic initiatives. His approach to expanding military cooperation with Japan and distancing South Korea from China has faced criticism from progressive leaders like Lee Jae-myung, who prioritize dialogue with North Korea and advocate for a more conciliatory approach to neighboring countries. The election result underscores the need for cooperation between President Yoon and the opposition to address pressing domestic issues, such as housing prices, an aging population, pension system reforms. Prime Minister Han Duck-seo and several top aides tendered their resignations, signaling President Yoon's acknowledgement of fault and his intention to reorganize the government to stabilize the economy and improve governance. Despite initial tensions, efforts to build a cooperative relationship with the opposition are underway, indicating a shift in approach from the president's administration. Well, I'm guessing his hand might be forced, if you will. President Yoon's acceptance of the election result and commitment to reforming governance reflect a recognition of the need for unity and cooperation to navigate South Korea's political challenges and advance the country's interests. As President Yoon seeks to stabilize his administration and address these key issues, including fostering dialogue with the opposition, the outcome of this election sets the stage for a period of political recalibration and potential collaboration with South Korean politics. Okay, so basically, President Yoon got smacked down. He lost, his party lost control of parliament. So that would be in essence like having a super majority of, say, Republicans in both the Senate and the House, and President Biden not being able to do anything, although this has been happening in the U.S. for some time. So maybe not the best example, but one thing is for certain. He is learning. Perhaps President Biden can take a key educational moment from President Yoon and saying, okay, things aren't working out my way. The people, not my political opposition, not the Republicans, not the conservatives, or those MAGA people like he blame everything on Trump and everything MAGA because, hey, you've been in the White House since 2021. I assure you, you have not been perfect. But the one thing is for certain is our politicians, our elected leaders are doing one thing that has been consistent, and that is not looking out for the citizens of the United States, not looking out for what is in the best interest of the United States citizen, and going, you know what, we are acknowledging our voices. We are acknowledging that it hurts to go to the grocery store. It's, yes, you are having more and more families dependent on debt, on credit card, just to make it day by day. So as in South Korea, and what's important is you got to remember, South Korea is a very integral part of our allies in that Asian Pacific alliance, because they are an absolute need to balance out North Korea and Kim, who, you know, can be a bit nutty and has nukes. So we need him to be able to stabilize. We need South Korea to stabilize and work together. And also at a time where we're seeing that Taiwan is being threatened by China and being taken away, in which, again, President Biden, I don't understand him sometimes. I will honestly don't get it. Democratic nation about to be seized by another communist nation. You know, why are we not promoting that freedom? But this is a key issue. So when he is trying to establish a united front with Japan and Philippines, South Korea is an integral part of that united front as well. So that is our Asian friends and local look towards it. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to discuss other issues that are affecting not only the upcoming presidential election in November of this year, but also domestically. What are we going to do? I think that's the bigger question. Is we have a plurality of people. I would say probably 70, if not maybe 80%, that we're watching this fringe, making all this noise, all this rattling, all this, but it's us, we the people. We have to find our voices and make them be heard so that we can have a government of the people, for the people, by the people, which is what the United States is supposed to be about. That was what our founders wanted. Tune back in, and we're going to be discussing some elections.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
What if this happened to you when you're alone? Or what if it happened here? With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new CareWatch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The CareWatch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your CareWatch for free. The CareWatch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your CareWatch for free. Don't wait. Call us to get your CareWatch right now. Operators are standing by.
Is democracy under attack? I mean, both sides are screaming, we need to win to save democracy. If the other side wins, democracy will end as we know it. Well, Democrats are seeking primary victories amidst anti-Trump sentiment, Trump derangement syndrome, anti-MAGA, on and on. Harry Dunn, a former Capitol Police officer who gained prominence for his confrontations with supporters of former President Donald J. Trump during and after the events of January 6, 2021, is now running for the U.S. House. At a campaign event in Annapolis, Maryland, Dunn was greeted with both enthusiasm and skepticism, with attendees acknowledging his heart, but also questioning his legislative experience compared to his main opponent, State Senator Sarah Elfreth. I hope I said that right. Dunn's campaign is centered around the idea of fighting to preserve democracy, a sentiment echoed by other Democratic candidates in mid-Atlantic House districts. Candidates like Yevgeny Vidman, known as Eugene, who played a key role in exposing Trump's efforts regarding Ukraine, are leveraging their celebrity status from their involvement in high-profile events like the Jan 6 hearings to garner support. While these Save Democracy candidates have raised substantial amounts of money and enjoy widespread recognition for their victories, their victories are not exactly guaranteed as they face competition from candidates with a range of other policy priorities such as abortion, gun control, immigration, border security, the economy. Primaries in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia will be key battlegrounds where the strength of Jan 6 memories and the border message of defending democracy will be tested among Democratic voters. Let's go back for a second on these Jan 6, trying to pin it on Trump. And even though nobody has been actually convicted of insurrection, and Donald Trump is not even charged with insurrection, I don't know if you guys recall the Jan 6 hearings that were being televised during prime time for specifically during the midterm elections. And, it was definitely purposely timed to try to garner anti-Trump, anti-MAGA, anti-Republican candidates. It didn't have much viewers. And a lot of the viewers are very skeptical, especially now that we are hearing more information about Jan 6. But Jan 6 is not on the top of the list for the vast majority of voters. Yes, there's some that are absolutely outraged by it, others that might be outraged either side. There are people arguing on both sides. But the vast majority of the voters, those 70% of us that are, keep your head down, just work, take care of your family, let's get it together. Is this a real key battleground messaging? So in Pennsylvania, former Marine Corps officer Mike O'Brien and former television news broadcaster Janelle Stelson are competing for the chance to take on Representative Scott Perry, who was deeply involved in Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election. In Maryland's 3rd District, Dunn is among 22 Democrats vying to succeed Representative John Sarbanes, with candidates ranging from experienced legislators to political newcomers. Similarly, in Virginia, Vindman is seeking to replace Representative Abigail Spanberger. And while he enjoys significant fundraising success, he faces criticism from some elected Democrats who view him as a celebrity candidate, kind of like Dr. Oz a couple years back, overshadowing those who have served in local offices. Then again, maybe those serving in local offices, people are looking at him as a political hack and they want fresh, new vibes. Hello, that's how we got AOC. In Maryland's 3rd District, Dunn is among 22 Democrats. Overall, the tension between celebrity status and political experience is evident in these races, with candidates like Dunn and Vindman leveraging their fame to attract attention and financial support while facing criticism from some quarters for potentially overlooking candidates with some traditional political backgrounds. And then on the Republican side, Republican Party is gaining ground, bridging the divide with Democrats among voters. Over the past 4 years of Joseph Biden Jr.'s presidency, the partisan divide in the United States has significantly narrowed, with Democrats and Republicans now nearly evenly divided among voters. Republicans have made gains among voters without a college degree, rural voters, and white evangelicals, while Democrats have retained support from key constituencies like Black voters and younger voters, and have made strides with college-educated voters. However, this shift in partisan identification does not always predict voting behavior, though it offers insights into recent political outcomes in the evolving coalition demographies. The Republican Party has historically faced challenges with fewer Americans identifying as Republicans compared to Democrats. Despite previous efforts to broaden its appeal to Black and Hispanic voters, Republicans have found greater success in gaining support from the white working class and rural voters, leading to parity with Democrats. However, relying heavily on the white working class may not be a sustainable long-term strategy, as this demographic group is gradually declining as a share of registered voters. The education gap among white voters has widened significantly since 2010, with non-college educated white voters increasingly aligning with the Republican Party, particularly during the presidency of Donald J. Trump. Let's face it, Trump was extremely effective in reaching out and connecting with the disenfranchised voter, for those that were forgotten. I mean, how many times do we even hear ridicule by this administration, Democrats? Hillary Clinton, even when she was running for president, basically scoffed at the rural people. She even ignored a whole center of Pennsylvania, basically taking in the bag that, oh, Pennsylvania was blue, but, oh, we're not even going to bother to campaign there. We're not going to try to reach out to them because what do those hicks know? No, she did not say that specifically, so please do not come with a defamation suit, but that is how it was resonating. And for the first time, Pennsylvania went red for Trump. But that is one thing that Trump has effectively been able to do. He's reaching, this is a man who's a trust fund child, who is extremely wealthy. Whether you want to say it's an inflated wealth or not, okay, whether he's a billionaire or has $100 million worth of assets, he's rich. But one thing he has been able to do is get down to the level and connect one-on-one with people. And that has been his superpower. Now, on the flip side, back in the traditional Democrat days, they were known as the party of the working class, the party of the middle class. So things are flipping. And also now we are seeing even a shift among male Black voters who, though overwhelmingly Black voters have identified with the Democratic Party, you are seeing a shift in male Black voters are supporting Trump or stating they will vote for Trump. And it is 30% Black voters, of male Black voters, are saying that they support Donald Trump. And now you're seeing even 12% of female Black voters saying that they are going to be voting for Trump this time around. That is a huge demographic hit for the Democrat Party, because they have always relied on and specifically have changed their demographic view, their avatar, if you will, of their voter as being the identity politics. Whether you're Black, you're brown, you're young, you should vote for Democrats. And things are changing. And speaking of change and woes, Speaker Johnson's woes grow after GOP holdouts block the spying bill. House Speaker Mike Johnson, I have to tell you, I feel for this guy. He's in probably one of the most horrible predicaments, because he has to deal with such a tenacious fringe, very small minority fringe. And then on top of that, you have Republican congressional members resigning left and right out of frustration because of what is happening at the Capitol, because of frustrations of not being able to get things done that the people that voted them in want done. But House Speaker Mike Johnson is now facing a huge significant setback as Republicans, spurred on by former President Donald Trump, derailing the passage of a crucial national security spying law known as Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA. The failure of the procedural vote leaves the fate of the surveillance power uncertain, just a week before it was due to expire. The law has been a subject of contention due to concerns over the collection of American communications without a warrant. Johnson has advocated for the passage of the legislation, emphasizing that changes to the law would prevent potential abuses. However, Trump's opposition, ironically, when he was president, he signed it away for a few more years. Trump's opposition to the proposal expressed through social media, Truth Social, influenced sentiment against it. Despite assertions from both Democrats and Republican administrations about the necessity of Section 702 for national security, criticism from both ends of the political spectrum have persisted over the years. The failed vote highlights the internal divisions within the Republican Party, reminiscent of the infighting that led to the ouster of former Speaker Kevin McCarthy. A significant number of Republicans, including those aligned with the House Freedom Caucus, opposed this rule associated. So again, I feel for House Speaker Johnson. He is a very noble man. He states that he's a Reagan Republican. But one thing is for sure, so long as you have this ridiculous rule that one Republican, one congressional member can ask for the ouster of a speaker, and you have the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene, you have the likes of the Freedom Caucus that are basically just Trump lackeys that will do whatever it is to make sure that Trump has arguing points. Rather than listening to the fringe, this tyrannical, fear-based mongering small percentage, please wake up. Do what you're supposed to do. Protect our interests, secure our borders, make sure that the United States is secure, because we have a world that's on fire. We're going to take a quick break and join me right back as we talk about a little bit more about the upcoming elections.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
Well, we've been discussing a lot about the flaring issues that this administration is facing, as well as campaigns, not only from congressional primaries, but now let's talk about the real issues that are flaring up, affecting or challenging both Trump and Biden. And we're talking about abortion, inflation, Gaza, border security. So as the 2024 presidential race is gaining momentum, key issues have collided, shaping the narratives of both President Biden and former President Trump. Among these issues are the abortion, since Roe v. Wade has been overturned 2 years ago, inflation, as we discussed in our first segment, the war in Gaza, and Israel's right to trying to secure not only its own country, but get back those the hostages that are still in Hamas's control. Trump's attempts to delay its trials have failed. So we are looking at, for the very first time, a former president being tried on criminal charges starting Monday, April the 15th, and sparking discussions on presidential immunity from criminal charges. So Trump's stance on abortion has been facing scrutiny with, even if anybody's on any type of social media, you'll see that Biden's Twitter or X feed and TikTok and Kamala Harris have been trying to say that Trump wants zero abortions and he wants to outlaw it completely. Well, in fact, Trump did finally come out and he's getting some pushback on it as well. But his stance that is facing that scrutiny is saying, you know what? We're following the court's decision. It is up to the individual states. It is the right of the states to determine what rights someone has, whether they have the right to choose an abortion or not. And actually, that was kind of smart, because right now Trump really doesn't need to lock up the evangelical Christian right vote. He did what he promised in his first term, and that was appoint Supreme Court justices that would overturn Roe, and that's what happened. And let's remember, the pro-life argument has always been that it should not be a federal or court ruling that allows abortion or the freedom of privacy and freedom of choice. It should be up to the individual states. So he has basically stated, okay, it's up on the individual states. The individual states can do it. So states like Ohio that went ahead and put a constitutional amendment legalizing abortion, like Florida, which on our election in November, we have on the ballot a constitutional amendment legalizing abortion. So meanwhile, Biden is prioritizing abortion rights in his reelection bid, basically stating that, hey, at least he knows what a woman is that he is the purveyor and the guard for women's rights and their bodies. So we're going to continue. And honestly, it's like the Roe v. Wade argument. the vast majority of United States citizens polled, and that would be 70% Democrats, 60% Republicans or more, actually, are in favor of pro-choice, to have safe, legal access to abortion up to a limit, not abortions all the way up to 9 months. That's where all hell broke loose, by the way, on this, when people were pushing the whole, you have a right to an abortion up to 9 months when a baby is viable. Inflation continues to emerge as a major point of contention, posing challenges for Biden's economic agenda. With economic data showing persistent price increases, Biden's hopes of addressing inflation and boosting his approval ratings face hurdles. And let's face it, he has the worst approval ratings ever in history of a sitting president. Any potential relief from the Federal Reserve, such as a rate cut of high mortgage rates and interest rate, is expected later in the year rather than sooner than later. And that's even questionable considering, like we stated in the beginning of the show, when you have a consumer pricing index showing that inflation is continuing to rise and it is at 3.5% to 3.8%. The ongoing war in Gaza presents another challenge for Biden, especially within his own party. Criticism mounts against the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, with military actions resulting in aid worker casualties, which unfortunately that does happen. And our hearts go out to those families of those aid workers that were there trying to bring food for families in Gaza. But let's not forget that unfortunately this is war. This is war against a terrorist organization. And that's the other thing is that Biden now seems to be kowtowing because he wants the votes of Michigan. And he's kowtowing to a very loud, tyrannical type of protesting and not really taking into effect that we saw one of the worst terrorist acts since 9/11. And now you have, with this ceasefire deal that is still being negotiated. And let's remember, there have been a lot of ceasefire deals that Hamas has said, nope, we're not going into it. Nope, we're not going to do it. All of the blame is going on Israel. But yet, it's come out that Hamas has finally admitted that they don't even know if they have enough hostages to release. 40 hostages. That is the latest deal. 40 hostages for hundreds of Palestinians that are currently incarcerated after a trial in Israel for committing acts of violence or terrorism. That doesn't make sense, but maybe you can make it make sense. Both candidates, Trump and Biden, are refining their campaign messages, aiming to highlight strengths and exploit opponents' vulnerabilities. One thing for sure is maybe age should not be a factor in those two. Now, we do have RFK Jr. He's still out there. He's still fighting. He's still going after it. So we do have a third candidate. But one thing's for sure. Trump is attacking everything on the economy, on the border security, the failure of Biden to secure it, and also the debacles of Biden with the exit of Afghanistan. And Biden is attacking Trump on the Roe v. Wade and the, identity politics and such. How this is going to influence voter perceptions and determine the outcome in November, I don't know. And then we also have that third candidate, that dark horse, if you will, of RFK Jr., and whether or not he is actually a spoiler, because they're showing that most of his supporters, if RFK were to drop out, which he's not at this point, dropping out of the election, but if he were to drop out, his supporters showed that a majority of his supporters will support Trump versus Biden. And majority of his supporters are disenfranchised Democrats. So that is an issue. So Biden needs to figure out, how is he going to connect with the constituents? And it's not about being Grandpa Joe. It's not about showing that he has some mental acuity or that he has even ability to be, capable of doing his job. It comes down to, the social justice issues, the social push and environmental push that he's doing, is it really hurting more Americans or not? Is Trump's words, are people really going to be able to overcome what Trump says? Because let's face it, one of the things that is so infuriating about Trump is he has no filter. He, on his Twitter back in the day, or Truth Social, whatever he calls it now, the things that come out of his mouth, it's like, for crying out loud, can you please put a ball gag in his mouth and muzzle him? Because his policies were good. Business-wise, it was good for middle-class Americans, for self-employed people, for the small business owners. It was good. And Biden trying to put all of the blame of COVID on Trump when the whole world was shocked by what happened in April of 2020, mid-March, April 2020. But let's not forget, it was Biden who was forcing people to be thrown out of the military if they didn't get the jab. It was Biden's administration trying to force us to get a jab, whether we wanted it or not. Nobody is looking at COVID accountability, which both Biden and Trump have accountability painted all over them. And let's look at another thing, the vice presidential pick. Trump has yet to name his vice presidential pick. This is going to be crucial because I, for one, and many others are going to look at who he chooses as the vice presidential running mate. And is this person going to be an important factor, like someone who can kind of reel in Trump, but also diffuse some of the issues that Trump brings with him? And it then begs the question, Biden, he would probably do a hell of a lot better if he chose a different running mate. Because right now he's running with Kamala. But, you know, she has worse approval ratings than Biden. And honestly, whenever she opens her mouth, it does sound like she's talking like to kindergartners. So these are the issues we're dealing with. This is the fun we're going to be watching in the next several months. I want to thank you for tuning in for another episode of Purple Politics. Come back next Friday after Tax Day, which for those of you who may have forgotten, April 15th, Monday, Tax Day. And we will tune back and talk about more things political and news of the United States.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Are you drowning in a sea of medical records, spending countless hours in the documentation? Picture this, a cutting-edge AI-powered tool designed specifically for the healthcare industry that streamlines your workflow, reducing time and effort spent on tedious medical record research. Introducing DataDive, your lifesaver in medical record review. Say goodbye to manual data extraction and hello to efficiency. Our advanced artificial intelligence delves into vast medical databases, swiftly extracting relevant information so you can focus on what truly matters, patient care. Imagine having a virtual assistant at your fingertips, tirelessly working to compile comprehensive medical histories, treatment plans, and diagnostic reports. DataDive not only saves you time, but ensures accuracy and completeness in your documentation. DataDive adapts to your unique needs, learning from your preferences, constantly improving its performance. It's like having a dedicated research partner that evolves with you. The future of healthcare is here. Artificial intelligence meets medical expertise. Partner with DataDive and embrace a world where your valuable time is spent caring for patients, not drowning in paperwork. Your patients deserve it.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up,